Welcome to the Boulder Junction Access District Joint Commissions meeting. It is January 24th and it's 4:05 p.m. And I will call roll. Susan Prant.
Here.
Jennifer Schreiber. Rebecca Dumichel.
Present.
Ryan Cook.
Present.
Kevin Knapp.
Here.
And Robin Ronan.
Present.
Thank you. And I will turn the meeting over to our chair for procedural items.
Thanks. I believe our first is the approval of the meeting minutes from last time. Should we proceed with approving on the parking side and then come back later to TDM?
Yeah, that works. We've done that previously and just
Okay.
had TDM, we've had TDM approve it in a future meeting or later on in the meeting.
Great. Did anybody have concerns, questions, or corrections for the meeting minutes from November? Great. Would anybody like, on the parking side, like to make a motion?
I move to approve the meeting minutes. I second.
Great. Think, all in favor? Then Kevin, okay. So that's unanimously approved. And then that moves us into approval of resolution 49. I don't believe we can do that right now because that's just TDM.
Yeah, I need everybody here.
Okay. Do we want to just defer any conversation, any discussion of that until we have the quorum for TDM? Okay.
And yeah, that's up to you. If there are any questions about it, we can certainly answer. But hopefully we'll hear. So that's C10D. I know that's you.
Yeah.
Hopefully Jennifer is able to join us at least for a few minutes. Otherwise, we'll need to table that vote for either a special meeting or a future meeting.
Okay. Rebecca, would you like to comment?
Yeah, I have a question about the details in there. There's one line item that says that the property will remain tax exempt, and then of course there's the actual agreement that says they will continue paying the fees as if they were being taxed. So are those two statements in conflict, or is that normally how it's written out?
Regan, do you want to take that one?
Well, so given that it is a tax exempt property, we'd be, are you referring to the pilot,
Bluebird.
the
Yeah.
payment of taxes, Commissioner?
It actually says like moving forward that we agree that they continue remaining tax exempt.
So, right, it's a tax exempt property, but if they are going to be included into the district, we would still invoice them as if they are paying taxes.
Okay. And then the second question is actually about the terminology about the termination of the contract, which includes when they sell the property, when they're no longer the owner of the property. So would the property be kicked out of the district at that point, or?
No, because even if they sell, and Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that even if they sell the property is still benefiting from being in the district. So the only way to terminate would be to petition for an exclusion from the district. Is that correct, Chris?
Sorry, Chris, if you said something, I couldn't hear it. Did you say?
Correct.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Did that answer your question, Rebecca?
I'm going back to the language to see if it was an and or an or. It looks like it's an and, but it's still somewhat confusing. That there's a way that it could be terminated if they sold the property and the pilot catch-up payment is paid in full. That I think as long as this is the correct legal terminology, I'm okay.
So the cooperation agreement that that requires them to pay us on an annual basis, the equivalent of the mill levy, needs to be in place in order for us to provide any services to the residents in the space. So if the cooperation agreement were to be canceled for any reason, it does not mean that the parcel would exit the district, but until the property, whoever is owning the property at the time, enters into a cooperation agreement, if it still remains tax exempt, they are not eligible for any of the services until they meet that additional requirement.
Thank you, Chris.
Go ahead, Sue.
So since people are living there now, they, is it true that until we vote on this, they wouldn't be paying the taxes and then wouldn't be getting their eco passes until we do this? And do they have to pay for their taxes for a little bit and then get the eco pass, or can start at the same time?
So since they've already signed the cooperation agreement, we did conference with the city attorney's office on that question. And the resolution can be approved after the fact of the services beginning. So now that they've signed the cooperation agreement, they will be eligible, they are eligible to receive services. We just need to be crossing our T's and dotting our I's on the legal paperwork associated with the mill levy. So they are going to be receiving services. We're putting BTC, Boulder Transportation Connections, in touch with the Bluebird folks. So no worries there.
Thanks.
I think the most, one of the consequential things in there just described was related to the outcome of the second vote from the TDM folks last time about attempting to suggest an increase in the discount, which sounds like that's not allowed by statute. Is that right?
Correct. The forming ordinances for the GIDs requires that any new parcels that are petitioned into the district need to be treated equally to the parcels the rest of the parcels that have been in the district in perpetuity. We were hoping that since we haven't had to charge anybody this catch-up fee in this way before, that we might be able to make an adjustment after the fact. But the city attorney's office found that we need to conform to the forming ordinances regardless of whether or not they've been applied over the past decade or not. So we were not able to make any adjustments there.
Thanks. Any other questions or comments? Okay. All right. Well, we can come back to that when we have the quorum for TDM. There's lastly, for procedural items, a reminder to send a headshot photo to Lisa for the city website. Robin, I see your hands raised.
Just curious, on the headshot, I need to get one for work regardless. Do you have a standard format of what is required for the headshot that you could send out to the group just so I can make sure I'm conforming to it?
You were just speaking.
Yeah, I do. City clerk's office did send out some requirements, and basically it's just so we can clearly see your face and maybe like from the shoulders up or the chest up. So, but I'll send that to you for sure.
Thanks, Lisa. I don't believe we have anyone here for public participation.
Not seeing anyone here from the public.
Okay. Karen, I have you next with the BTC update.
Great, thanks. Can everybody hear me okay? Great. I'll introduce myself. I'm Karen Warminghouse. I'm the Senior Manager of Transportation with Boulder Transportation Connections, and we're part of the Boulder Chamber. So hence the two logos above my head. Did everybody, I could screen share if that's enabled or if that would be helpful. The main thing that I have to screen share is the report that was included in the packet. So if you'd like me to screen share that, I can. I'm not sure if let me try and see if I have the capability first off. How about that? Is everybody seeing my screen? Oh, it looks like it. Great. Excellent. So this is the exact same report that should be in your packets as well. So feel free to follow along in that regard as well too. But my understanding, what I'm planning to do is just give a overview of the 5 event series that we call the Function at Boulder Junction that was held last year. So we were contracted with Community Vitality to do the 5 events. And yeah, somebody's saying it's on page 25 of the packet is where this report starts. So the intent of this was to do activation within the community, and particularly also to help educate on the various TDM benefits, namely the free eco passes, free B-cycle, discounted car share memberships, and so forth. So that was the broad intent of that. And we created, if you can see too, on our website. Do you also see this? I just jumped over to, great. On our website, Boulder TC, there's a, under our news and events section, there's a pull down area that we have a special page with all the information as well too. That'll have a few more photos, but they're all listed there. So I'll start off and just kind of recap. We started out in February. This was one of the very successful events as well too. It was Bike Home Happy Hour. We held that in the lower level of Roadhouse Depot Square, or Roadhouse Boulder Depot, I should say. It was a cold day, but it was planned to be an indoor event, which was great. We had a really nice turnout. Approximately 150 people came, so we pretty much filled that lower level of the Roadhouse. And also significant kudos to Community Cycles as well for really helping with outreach on that as well too. This has been a historical event that we've been doing for that Boulder has been doing for a number of years. This is the first year that we were the organizers. Typically it's Community Cycles. And I know they're hosting, I'll give a little plug. They're hosting the next one, which is February 9th at the local, I believe, up in North Boulder. So, but anyway, thanks to Community Cycles. We had a really nice attendance and turnout for that one. So that went really well. And there, like I said, there's some pictures of the particular events on our website as well too. Then our second one was held in April. We called that one the Clean Air Kickoff. That was held at Hyatt Place. Initially, we had intended to have that mostly outdoors in their kind of patio area. It did get a little windy and rainy that day. You'll hear me talk a fair amount about weather throughout this presentation because it was a major factor in a lot of our events. So it did get a little, it was threatening wind and rain, so we moved the bulk of that event indoors, including the speakers. So we had all of our TDM partners there, B-Cycle, Car Share, Via Mobility was there. They brought in one of their electric hop buses, and Boulder Valley School District also brought in an electric school bus, which was quite a hit. A lot of people enjoyed getting on the bus for a little tour. And that one, as I mentioned, we held at Hyatt Place, Boulder. And as you'll see too, we really tried to utilize all of the various restaurants that had the capacity for these events so that we'd, move things around, namely with the Roadhouse, with Hyatt Place, with Zeal, and then doing an outdoor event in the plaza too, so that we would rotate things around and all the businesses could benefit as much as possible. And that one, we estimated about 60 people attended. Again, weather impacted that one as well, because we were hoping to be primarily outdoors for that, and we had to move indoors. Then our Bike Home Happy Hour. This was another good, successful event. Bike Home Happy Hour on Summer Bike to Work Day. So that was June 28th. That we held in front of Zeal in the Warnoff area. Zeal was a great partner to work with. They were able to do the petitions or permits, I should say, to close down the Warnoff so we could have bicycle parking along there. And there's some really great photos of this event on our website as well too that show, I think we had at least 50 plus cyclists there and bicycles parked in that Warnoff area for the event. So that one was, I'd say, a very, very good success. And again, all of our partners, TDM partners, had tents out there and informational tables, B-Cycle, Lime, Colorado Car Share, Community Cycles, Via Mobility, and a few others. So that was great. Then we had our big premier event, the Function at Boulder Junction. This was all the other ones, by the way, I think you guys might be familiar. We called them Function at Boulder Junction. Most of them had a lower, it was fun, emphasis on fun. This one was the emphasis on funk. So this was Function. This is the one that we had outdoors in the plaza. Jeff and Paige, and then our headliner music was Selassie and the Fafa family. A lot of time and effort went into this one. It was outdoor plaza. Unfortunately, as some of you know, the ones over there, weather did not cooperate for this event, which definitely impacted attendance and so forth. It was a major lift for us to do this event, particularly because we worked with the Roadhouse to expand the permitted beer garden liquor license area. So we had to get fencing and go through that whole process of getting the liquor license temporary permit extension. So a lot of time and effort. If we hadn't had if it would have been flexible and we could have moved the date, we would have, but we rented the stage and the tent and the music and all the permitting and everything. So it just wasn't, from a logistical standpoint, wasn't going to be feasible for us to shift the date at fairly last minute notice, unfortunately. It was still, if you take a look at the photos online, which I'll actually jump over to, I think, let me go to this one. There are some really great photos, despite it didn't rain the entire time. I'll say as evidenced by the photos. So there's some great photos, particularly when Jeff and Paige were performing. The kids got out, they didn't seem to mind the rain. So it was and we had a lot more partners for this one too. We brought in like Northwest Rail, Colorado 7, Multimodal Project, RTD was there, big slushy wheel. So it was really a lot of community partners and transportation partners. Visit Boulder was there, Full Cycle, you'll see there, had a tent and table. Yeah, this was the what's called big wheel beverages, the slushy wheel. The kids can go inside and power to make their own slushies. That was a significant hit and very popular. So yeah, it was a good event when it wasn't downpouring. Let's put it that way. So that was that one. And we estimated overall throughout the event, I listed most of the partners here. Again, we had B-Cycle, Lime, Car Share, Community Cycles, and so forth. I think I mentioned most of these. Front Range Passenger Rail was also there. Yeah, so I think Via Mobility, and yeah, I think we got the highlights for that. Then about 160 people attended that event. And then our final event was the Electrify October series. And that one featured more electric vehicles and also a hydrogen fuel cell vehicle from NREL, and also the Via Mobility's Hot Bus. That one we had outdoors, again, in front of Zeal by the Warnoff area. That one worked out quite well as well. However, we did have a big wind gust at the beginning of the event, a little bit of rain, but mostly it was the wind that crimped the style a little bit in the beginning, but then things got better. And we estimated about 160 people turned out for that one. So that's a very quick recap of those events. And I had a bit more information then too, as far as just feedback and so forth of what we found as far as successes and challenges. As I mentioned, we did rotate around to different venues. So the Roadhouse, that was the winter bike to work day event. This was for the clean air kickoff, the second one here at the High Place. And then this is by if you zoom in more on this picture, you can just see that there was a quite this whole area was filled with bikes, and thanks to Community Cycles for helping us out with the bike parking there as well. So nice partner community event. And then I'd say one of the significant wins out of this for us, as far as just activating the area as well, it took a little bit of doing, but we were able to successfully send out a postcard notice, and this is an example of the front and the back, to over 5,000 recipients that include residents and employers in the area, in the BJED area. So we worked with the city of Boulder on this. It took a little bit of where it took more work was actually getting the addresses and drilling down. It wasn't something that was readily available from the city, but we eventually did get that. And now that we have that, when I say like one of the wins is we can now utilize that information for future TDM mailings. If we want to do another postcard mailing about the TDM benefits at Boulder Junction, it will be a lot easier for us to do that. So and I think I may have misspoken. The postcard itself went to approximately 1,100 recipients. It was the email blasts and so forth that were going out to over 5,000 recipients. So, but yeah, postcard, and we put the QR code in there so we could track the bump in people going to the website as well. So this was a recap of the participation numbers that I went over earlier, just kind of some of the highlights. And the electric buses were definitely a hit in 2 of our events, so that was great. People really like to get on, particularly the electric school bus, because that was quite a novel thing. I don't know, a lot of adults just enjoyed getting back on a school bus, as long as it was on a voluntary basis. So, and our partners really showed up, and it was a great team effort. Again, I think it was great exposure for B-Cycle, Lime, Community Cycles, and Car Share. For folks to get questions answered and so forth. So that was a bit of the successes. The lessons learned and recommendations, certainly for us, I would say one of the key, weather was a key challenge when we were trying to plan the outdoor events. And also as we're a transportation management organization, so I guess our niche is getting eco-passes out there and sharing transportation information, and particularly the September event, it was heavy into event planning of working with the Roadhouse to expand the liquor license, getting a temporary permit for that. So there was a lot of work that was outside of our normal channels and so forth, that I'd say it took away from time that we would have had more to work more locally on some of the TDM efforts, and that we became more event planners than TDM outreach specialists, I would say. So in reflecting on this, and our team did a fair amount of reflecting too, it's I think there's sort of 2 different goals here. One is if the goal is to get TDM information out, doing so generally in a smaller scale manner, and working directly with the residential developments and employers, we find that to be very successful. Some of that can be done virtually, sometimes in person, but having that be much more targeted per individual, like residential complex is good. The other piece is, if the goal is activation of the area and of the neighborhood and of the district, then certainly events, and particularly outdoor events, is a good fit for that. But it's a bit of a trade-off as to being able to do both simultaneously, I would say, from that. And the other thing, I always need to mention this too. One of the challenges that we're struggling with, again, is RTD still does not have service at Boulder Junction. So we've been doing a tremendous job of, Will Shepherd is our dedicated person for Boulder Junction. He actually lives over in Boulder Junction, which is fabulous. So he's on, he's there every day and networking with the community and so forth. So we're doing a great job in getting more passes into people's hands, but the main options for them are the hop and the bound routes, but there's no direct regional service. There's no Flatiron Flyer. There's no direct connection to the airport. So that comes up time and again in these outreach pieces of, great, people are like, I've got my pass now, but where's the bus service? And we've continued to push that issue with RTD, and we've more or less gotten the answer of, don't count on anything, don't count on any bus service restoration this year. And I really feel like that we as a community in the city, we need to start looking potentially at other options. If RTD isn't in a position to provide local service, we need to start looking at some other options. One of those in my mind, what we've been floating internally, is contracting with VIA potentially to provide some peak service in the morning and the evening that could shuttle people over to the Flatiron Flyer, FF2 and AB, at least in the morning and at night, kind of similar to Northwest Rail's looking at a peak service study, is can we do some sort of peak service to at least get people connected to the regional routes. That particular suggestion is not in this report, I don't think, because we were having those discussions after this report was written. But that's definitely something we keep coming up against again and again. So I would encourage you, if you do want more information, feel free to look at our website as well too, and look through the photos and so forth. Yeah, so I wanted to kind of keep it short, but that's the main summary, and I'd be happy to answer any questions people may have. Questions or comments or suggestions as well going forward.
I'll start with a comment, Karen. I thought they were great events. The ones I was able to make it to, and I'm so glad we did them. Obviously, unlucky with the weather, especially the function event, but still super fun. Still great to bring the community together and bring people into the district. So I think as far as that went, it was still really successful.
Great, thanks, Kevin. Looks like Rebecca.
Yeah, also thank you for your work on this. I do think we did have two goals, and activation was definitely one of the top ones there. As far as weather and function event, one lesson learned would be to have some tents inside the liquor licensed area, because I think that kind of changed people's behavior a bit, right? So they couldn't stay dry and participate in items. So
thanks. And I guess one of my questions too would be, if there were event series or larger ones like this too, is how important to all of you on the call, both I'd say commissioners and staff, the liquor license piece, the expanded beer garden was definitely created quite a bit more work for us to do that. Had we not done that, it's might have been possible that we might have been able to have like the bandwidth and the flexibility to actually shift the date or something too weather-wise. So that would be a question that I would just put out as folks look for future events, is how important is it to have, if you have an outdoor event, how important is it to have an expanded beer garden area?
I mean, I think it was fine when it was half outside at Zeal. It's hard to judge. I hadn't been that wet and cold in a really long time. But
It was really rainy.
So it was really hard to judge, but to me, knowing what a liquor license takes, it's not worth it.
I'm going to be the honest one and say that I completely weaned out because of the weather and didn't end up going. And I think the issue with the liquor license, and I feel you because I definitely do events also, and liquor licenses add such an insurmountable burden sometimes, especially depending upon staffing. Having said that, I think it entirely depends upon the kind of demographic that we're trying to reach. If you have young families, liquor license is definitely less, I think, important. But if you're trying to get the young professional groups, having, brewery options just will increase that. I'm wondering if, like on a feedback survey through QR codes, it could just be a direct ask, like how important is it for you to have an option at this event?
And And I'll follow, thanks for that feedback. And the other, as you were saying that too, the other piece, having live music also made it substantially a bigger heavy lift. Like if we hadn't had done the live music and the tent and the stage and all of that, we could have been more flexible and nimble as well. So those two factors, both the expanded beer garden area and the live music, certainly made that a much bigger endeavor.
I think the live music was really important and differentiator from the other events. And I was there at most of these events, so I do know what the weather was, but there were also a lot of really beautiful days. So
Yeah, I was at everyone except that last one, the electric vehicle one. And it's definitely skewed by the weather, but I would say my favorite one was the Winter Bike Tour Day one.
And would you say, Sue, the winter one, even you were at the summer one too, right?
I was at the summer one. I actually drizzled a little, but it was fine because it was summer. And yeah, I mean, I think that was good, and there were definitely more tables at that because we couldn't really table so much at winter. And you did have the vehicles out there, which was interesting. But I don't know, there was just a really good energy at the winter one that I didn't see as much in any of the others. So
yeah, I would agree. And one other thing that was coming to mind too is doing 5 of them actually, like toward the end, like felt like a lot. At least, well, personally as the organizer and so forth, like, you know, it was a heavy lift, but like I feel like even with our partners, like we were starting,
yeah, it felt like a lot to us.
We were getting burned out of, like, you know, B-cycle, community cycles. It's like that was a lot to even just have them show up and table at. So I'd say 5 in a year.
There was definitely, like, you know, I had to go because my other staff people were like, you know, well, I do a lot of events, you know, and we do a lot of events. To add 5 more, it was a lot.
Rebecca, I think you've got your hand up again.
yeah,
right?
So there's 2 things there. The lift for the event planning, and whether or not we actually need to have tables at all of these events, right? So I think this was an experiment to see whether or not BTC was a good fit for the event planning. And we were doing all the tabling to justify that kind of relationship there. So maybe what we consider is that some events are not so focused on those kinds of tables. My second question is actually, who is responsible for the liquor licensing? Is that the city or is that a state requirement?
There's both, like you have to
both.
it's both a city and state piece. And the piece that we had, basically the Roadhouse knows what it takes as well too. So they were very reluctant to do it on their own. So they basically asked us, like, we did most all of the paperwork and the legwork and everything and got the fencing and everything done. They just essentially had to sign the form and post it in the window, but we were having to, like, we filled out the application and was doing all the permitting process. So yeah, but it's both. And Lane, I'm sure, could say more about this and is probably ready to chime in. So I'll let you have at it.
Oh, you did great. But there are usually 2 options. One is to use a nonprofit to pull a temporary liquor service event permit. And in this case, that was not very viable for this group. So then the Roadhouse stepped up and they can do what's called a temporary modification of their physical space, which that allowed them to expand out. So long as they keep one contiguous wall with the building, it's allowed. So that was the option that Karen and her team used to get that through. And you're correct, we have the Boulder Licensing Authority, and then that is overseen by the state of Colorado. So both that application has to go through both levels.
Okay, thank you. I find it weird that the state is so lenient on some things and so strict on liquor licenses for events.
The fencing comes from the city, not the state.
Correct. We're to create containment, as we saw during the pandemic. Containment of some places was a single rope strung between some Home Depot buckets, but as you'll see at Bands on the Bricks, where it's a lot more density, it does require 6-foot fencing, especially where the alcohol is served, and then at least 4 feet out from that. And that also gets a little bit more lax when you have a 5-year track record with no violations. So something that was a one-off this time in Boulder Junction did require the 6 foot. But again, I think Karen and her team did a great job with just getting that flexible, outdoor event fencing. But that is, we are part of a college town, and so those issues do pop up time and again.
I also do want to give a huge shout out to Lane and his team as well too. This series was a heavy lift on our end, but particularly the September event was also a very heavy lift on their end of, we'd be entering stuff in the portal and they'd have to be, going through and doing that and helping us along the way as they could too. So it was certainly a team effort. I know Lane and Justin and others and just the city in general invested quite a bit of time on the back end to get that permit through as well. So huge thanks to that, and recognize how much time and effort was involved there.
Thank you, Karen.
Thanks, Karen. Thanks, everyone. Any other questions or comments before we move on?
I would
Great.
just say, yeah, thanks for the opportunity to do it. We at this point, like Will has been continuing the TDM outreach on like the small scale strategy of working with, say, like, apartment complex one at a time and employers one at a time to get the TDM information out there, particularly with the conversion to My Ride mobile app and so forth. So that's our focus right now, is helping the residents and employees through that My Ride conversion, and doing it at a small scale. So, but appreciate the opportunity, and yeah, thanks for the feedback. So, thanks.
Thanks, Karen. So the next 2 items were just for comments or questions from commissioners on the consent agenda or fund financials. Did anybody want to bring anything up from either of those out of the packet before we move past? I see a hand. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think we will continue to bring up the fund financials and the plans to reduce the mill levy for the parking district until staff comes with a proposal there.
As we mentioned in Q4 of last year, I think it was the November meeting, we brought some materials to the commissions, and we promised to come back to you in Q1 of this year, and the topic will be on your marked agenda. It will not be a reduction of mill levy topic, it will be reduction topic of options for us to consider in anticipation of the 2025 tax year.
Will that include mill levy inductions? I'm unsure what you're saying.
Yes, so we have 5 districts that 4 GIDs that we manage. And we have similar considerations in all of our GIDs related to fund health. And so I'll be talking about this later in the CV work plan. Boulder Junction GIDs are on the list for alternatives analysis to understand a number of fund health considerations that we need to get advice from our commissions before we take those recommendations to council for implementation. So that could include certainly mill levy reductions in the districts where that makes sense, but there's a lot of analysis that we need to include in that work. And we'll
Kevin, this was also a topic of concern for you at the last meeting. Do you have any questions or comments?
I think I've probably said my piece before. I think as a group, as a collective body here, I don't think there's a good understanding of the intent, the ongoing intent of the parking district, like the services that are continuing to be provided to the residents and the businesses there. And so I think to me, that's what needs to be established. I think that those services are more clear in the TDM district. But for parking, I think that, you know, this needs to be clarified. What's our ongoing role? What are we providing to the district? And what are we asking for from the district?
And we agree. So that is on the 2024 work plan. And so we look forward to having that conversation. I'm seeing Matt Shazansky maybe is turned off his mic because he and his team will be helping to lead this conversation, again, not just for Boulder Junction, but for each of the general improvement districts to understand long-term capital liabilities and possibilities in conjunction with possible modifications to mill levy and long-term tax receipts.
Okay, I look forward to the March discussion or whenever that meeting is that we have that. I would just like to express my preference for urgency on some of these topics because it is a topic that we brought up a year ago. And, you know, we've brought it up and then it's always been, okay, not the next meeting, but we're meeting every couple of months. And I don't know if there's something that we can do that would be more expedient. Even though, so we didn't discuss this last year, which means it didn't make it into this budget and it will be next budget, you know, next year's budget.
So maybe you missed the meeting where we had the agenda item with the city attorney's office to outline the different options that we had available to us last November.
I was at the November meeting.
So this, we can resend the memo that was prepared by the city attorney's office that outlines the various options that we have that could be expedient in reducing, at least temporarily, the property tax obligation. Happy to resend that information to you all. I think we have a long track record of this commission as an advisory commission suggesting things that you would like to see, and we deliver on those things. It doesn't happen overnight. Look forward to continuing the conversation with you all. And I don't think we disagree with anything that you suggested that we should be considering. I ask for your patience and grace in acknowledging that we have this work to do in all the districts that we serve, on top of a number of other things, which I'll look forward to sharing with you shortly.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks. I think that's a great segue for staff to take over with the 4 items they have for us today.
Great. Oh, I need you to make me a co-host so I can share the screen. I'm going to share my screen as soon as I can. And I'm also going to try to move quickly to make up some time for some of the other presentations. So let's see, start. Everyone seeing, perfect. I think we're good. All right. So 2024 Community Vitality Work Plan. We've been spending some time reflecting on the citywide sustainability, equity, and resilience framework, our departmental strategic plan, as well as our the strategic pillars of the department: cultural vibrancy, district vitality, access for all, working toward what we reasonably want to accomplish in 2024 toward these goal areas. Real quick, though, I want to talk about some of the highlights of all the work that we accomplished in 2023. I'm going to bring up some notes because Matt Shazansky shared some bullets with me that are much more accurate than I'm going to share from the top of my head. But in the cultural vibrancy work area, we distributed $1.08 million in community funding to artists and nonprofits. Among the programs, this includes ARPA rescue funding that helps arts organizations rehire back positions for artists and arts administration professionals that were let go during the pandemic. The public art program completed a community selection process to hire an artist that is designing a sculpture that's going to be located at Valmont Park. This is the Valmont Park Ring Garden, so looking forward to more progress there. And our special events office has been partnering with many. You've been hearing about the activations in Boulder Junction, but also we've done a number of activations in the downtown area, Boulder Social Streets, as well as other events in partnership with the Downtown Boulder Partnership. So we've learned a lot, and we'll be building on our evaluation of all the activations from 2023 to consider how we want to move forward with activations, not just in Boulder Junction, but downtown and other areas moving forward. In the district vitality work area, we implemented $3.4 million in capital improvements in all of our districts. The majority of those improvements were in downtown garages, but maybe one of the more noticeable investments for you all is the branding, wayfinding, placemaking improvements in the Boulder Junction totems that hopefully some of you or all of you have seen show up this last week. So really excited about that improvement. We've also had ongoing efforts in the University Hill area focused on revitalization in anticipation of the Hill Hotel opening up in March, just a couple months, as well as, of course, the Limelight Hotel, which is quickly coming out of the ground. We want to make sure we're leveraging those major transformations in University Hill to the greatest extent possible to help that commercial area be more successful. On the Access for All front, we went to gateless technology in all of our downtown garages. If you have not signed up for Metropolis yet, I highly encourage you to do so. This is not the same system we're using at Boulder Junction, though we are working with our partners at the Depot Square Owners Association to possibly move to this technology in the not too distant future, but really excited about that change in the downtown. We've also replaced all of the lollipop signs in front of the downtown garages to provide better wayfinding and totems to identify which garages are owned by the downtown district, as well as real-time parking information on the signs and in the garages to direct folks to where their available parking is in the garages. We replaced all of the on-street signage for on-street parking in all of the paid managed districts. So hopefully you've noticed those updated signs at Boulder Junction. And overall, just really excited about all the noticeable changes for our customers in all of the districts that we serve. We're continuing some concrete repair capital work at the St. Julian, Randolph, RTD and Spruce downtown. We have some work to do to finish repaving the Spruce parking lot. More work is happening on the Affordable Commercial Pilot Program, which you all have seen or heard about a little bit over the last year. Ongoing work with University Hill. We are continuing to expand the outdoor dining pilot program. We have a number of restaurants that have expressed interest in signing up this year. So you're going to be seeing more restaurants in the city participating in that program. And then finally working on getting our trees upgraded around our downtown garages. Moving forward on the cultural vibrancy work plan for 2024, we acknowledge that the community cultural plan, it's the time horizon, planning horizon of that work ends this year, and combined with the approval of the 2A ballot item that's establishing long-term funding for the arts. We're working to and continuing into 2025 to conduct research, data analysis, and community engagement to map out our long-term vision for how those dedicated funds are going to be spent in support of a long-term vision for arts and culture. Our special events team has been leading a strategic planning effort that will be completed in the coming months. That will include recommendations for more efficient and structured special events program. And so then we'll move toward implementing those recommendations with the goal of being a better partner in the production of special events throughout the city. There's an audit of our citywide collection of more than 200 works of public art. Now that the library is its own district, we've the Community Vitality in our Office of Arts and Culture has inherited a lot of art that we need to get a good inventory on. This work will be the first step in understanding how we can take care of these assets, and we'll be completing renovation of all of the ways that these things are identified, and also incorporating an online education resource so everybody can enjoy and understand our outdoor museum of public art. So we're going to continue to work with our partners at the Dairy Arts Center on a renewal of their long-term lease. This is to ensure that the dairy can continue to thrive in the city for many, many years to come. We had a 20-year agreement that expired a couple of years ago. We've been extending it by 1 year over the past couple of years, working towards establishing another long-term agreement there. The Office of Arts and Culture will be relaunching a Creative Neighborhoods program that includes initiatives like neighborhood murals, artist work projects, and support our comprehensive planning office to ensure that culture and creativity are part of area planning and the comprehensive plan. So we can expand arts opportunities beyond our key visitor commercial areas, but into neighborhoods throughout the city. And finally, our cultural grants program will again be supporting expansion of arts in the community. It's important that this takes into account diversity and equity goals in our granting. And there's the new Equity Pipeline Fund that helps young leaders and underrepresented groups to gain new skills and build their networks so that they can grow into the future leaders of Boulder's creative industries. So that's our cultural vibrancy work area. Thank you, Matt, for your talking points. In the district vitality work area, we have a $5.2 million capital program this year. Part of that is an assessment of all of our existing capital assets to understand their current state and map out their capital needs over the next 5-10 years. Specifically in 1500 Pearl, we are going to be working to replace the HVAC system and the fire suppression system in the garage area. We might find ourselves replacing the fire suppression system in our tenant spaces, as we had a major freeze in that building last week after a failure in the deep freeze. The entire building lost heat and froze when we had negative 17-degree temperatures. So we've all been working outside of that building as we have been repairing over a dozen breaks and cleaning up water and trying to get our tenants back into spaces over there. So that's been super fun. At 1100 Spruce, we are replacing some landings at the elevators, as well as the fire suppression system there. At the St. Julian, we're going to be replacing some stairs at that facility and installing a traffic coating between the first and second parking levels to reduce some corrosion that's been occurring over the past 20 years there. We're working on our planning for the 50th anniversary of the Pearl Street Mall, which is coming up in 2027. So we have some resources directed toward that to make sure we at least have a refreshed look and feel by the time we enter into the 50th anniversary, as well as a long-term vision for major improvements in the downtown area to set the mall and the downtown up for another 50 years of success. We are looking at some improvements to the mobile vending cart program. So Community Vitality is responsible for soliciting for and leasing space in both actually downtown University Hill, and we have the opportunity in Boulder Junction as well to lease space for mobile vending carts to operate. You're really familiar with seeing these downtown. It's been successful over many years. We have not seen this take off in University Hill. But we would love to see more activity and activation in this realm up there, as well as at the Depot Square Plaza. So we'll be working on that this year as well. We have some capital funds directed toward undergrounding power lines within the downtown district. We have allocated funds over at least the next 5 or 6 years. And so incrementally, we're going to be working with climate initiatives and Excel Energy to get all, or if not all of the overhead power lines in the downtown district undergrounded over the next several years. This will improve safety, aesthetics, reliability of the system. So looking forward to that work as well. Finally, this General Improvement District's Alternatives Analysis and Capital Plan is a big lift that I mentioned in my response to the consent agenda, where we are taking a look at the financial components of all of the general improvement districts and analyzing our long-term capital obligations as far as keeping our assets in shape, our operational obligations for TDM, for staffing, wanting to understand possibilities for new capital enhancements, as well as opportunities to reduce mill levy obligations where appropriate. So you all will be very much a part of this conversation. It's not going to be a one-year effort, but we will be looking toward some near-term action items to implement, possibly in anticipation of the 2025 tax year. So more to come on that, and you'll hear more about this in March. In our Access for All work area, this year we're going to be replacing our back-end parking management system. So where in 2023, we made a lot of changes that were noticeable to the customers that we serve in our garages, as far as the gateless technology and other improvements in that area. This year, we're replacing some of the back-end systems that aren't going to be as noticeable to our customers, but are really big for us. The current parking management system that we have, called T2, is a legacy system that is not very user-friendly on our side of the equation. This system needs to communicate in real time from our on-street parking pay stations to the Park Mobile app, to our citation writing systems that our parking enforcement officers carry around, to the municipal court that processes tickets as they're written and has to consider appeals and voids or adjudications of those tickets. So the current system that we have is antiquated, connects all those things together. It's critical to our operation, and we're going to be replacing that in the months ahead. We're really excited about a Communified pilot program, which you're going to be hearing about shortly. So I'm not going to talk about that right now, because Regan's here to present that work to you. We're also doing a comprehensive review of all of our access-related products and coming up with some recommendations for changes in those products to better serve our customers in all the districts we serve. And finally, we are implementing a digital asset management system called Beehive in partnership with a number of other departments of the city. This will allow us to better manage our routine maintenance and inventory of all the things that Community Vitality is responsible for in keeping in good working order throughout the city. So with that, that's a high level overview of everything we have planned in 2024. Happy to answer questions. I'll stop sharing my screen.
Chris, you brought up the Pearl Street anniversary and the work there. So I will ask, is there been any update or work on the seasonal closures of West Pearl for outdoor dining?
So that is a bigger conversation affiliated with the Boulder Social Streets that is being led by Transportation and Mobility and Planning and Development Services. We are certainly very interested in what the outcomes of that work are. I know that City Council is also looking to get that on their agenda in the months ahead. So nothing to share with you specifically right now related to West Pearl, But I do know that the Boulder Social Streets effort will be raised likely at a study session in the next few months.
Thank you.
If there are no additional questions on our work plan, then I'm happy to move into an update from Regan on the wayfinding and branding.
All right, thanks, Chris. Let me share my screen here. I have an exciting update for you all regarding the wayfinding project. Just going to share some photos, and just an FYI, when I share my screen, I can't see raised hands, so feel free to interrupt me, or just wait till I stop sharing the screen. All right, give me 1 second. The top bar won't move, so I can't like actually fully present. Go away.
Okay. They're at the bottom of your screen.
There we go. There we go. I got it. Sorry, it took me a second. Okay, I know I shared some of these photos with you all during the last commission meeting, but again, just to recap, so this was kind of the construction phase, pouring the concrete, really laying the foundation for the signage, the fabrication. But now finally, this week, some of the signage has begun to get installed. So all signs in the public right-of-way are installed except for 2 vehicular directional and 1 pedestrian directional. And then just a reminder, the private property signage will be rolled out sort of in a phase 2. We're just getting permission from private property owners at this point. And at this point, we have gone either verbal or written confirmation from all of those on private property that they'd like to pursue this signage. So all of it should be complete and installed by this spring. But if you haven't had a chance, again, most of it in the public right of way is out there. So I encourage you to go check out Pearl and Junction Place. There are 2 primary gateway signs there on 30th and Pearl, both on the north and south side of Pearl. There's some secondary gateway signage. There's one right in front of the Roadhouse, indicating Depot Square Plaza, as you can see on the left here. I personally think it looks fantastic, but I'm being biased because I've been working on this for almost 2 years now. So definitely go check it out. Very exciting update for all of us.
It does look good.
Yay, thank you.
Yeah, it really does.
Great work.
Awesome. Thank you, Regan. Very excited to see the fruits of all of that labor. And again, you know, what we heard from the commission a couple of years ago in our strategic, in our retreat was this was a primary priority for the commission. So really glad that we were able to translate that into these improvements. Regan, you're next on the agenda. Unless there are any questions.
I will share my screen again, this time presenting on Commutify pilot program. All right. And again, just a reminder, I can't see hands. So if commissioners can wait till the end for questions, that would be great, but also feel free to interrupt me. All right, are you seeing my slides?
Yep.
Great. So we are launching a pilot program in partnership with Commutify this year. For those of you who aren't aware, Commutify is a tech startup based here in Boulder, and their focus is on developing platforms to better understand as well as quantify commuting patterns and encourage folks to take sustainable commutes. So the pilot program will run through 2024, and the focus area will be in the central area, General Improvement District, also known as KJID or downtown, as well as in BJAD, TDM. So just wanted to start with a high-level overview of the purpose and kind of what we're seeking to achieve through this pilot program, and then I'll get into the specific program elements. The purpose, in summary, is to encourage companies in Caged and Boulder Junction to fund and participate in sustainable commuting practices through a financial incentives matching program directed at their employees. So it will essentially provide financial incentives to employees within these districts who use sustainable transportation methods to get to and from work. So whether that be B-cycle, riding their own bike, carpooling, public transit, walking, etc. And the result that we're trying to achieve is that commuters will become more aware and more educated on Boulder's multimodal transportation options, all really in an effort to reduce carbon footprints of daily commutes, decrease traffic congestion, improve air quality, and support local business, which is the component that I'll get into in the next slide. So now diving into some of the specific elements of the program. First, Commutify will develop a public information hub for employers and their employees to learn more about the program and explore the transportation options that are available to them. We'll then work with Commutify to conduct outreach to employers within Caged and Boulder Junction so that they can register their organization on a project landing page if they so choose to participate in the program. And that's where they'll also be able to determine the amount that they'd like to incentivize for each employee. So again, if an employee takes a sustainable commute to work, they can receive this financial incentive from their employer in doing so. And then the city will then match that amount up to $1.25 per trip. So ultimately an employee can earn up to $2.50 per commute. Commutify will then assist participating employers in recruiting their employees to join this incentives program. They will develop and maintain an online dashboard where employees can register into the program, as well as validate their qualified commuting trips, which they can do either through self-reporting or automatic integrations that we are currently working on with our micromobility partners. So for example, if an employee takes a B-cycle, that'll be reported onto the B-cycle app, but it will automatically, that information will translate onto the Commutify dashboard. And it is important to note that an employee can report 2 times per day, so to and from work. So technically, they do have the ability to earn up to $5 a day with the city's match, but there will be a limit to how much we can put towards matching each employer. So if the program is super successful, there may be a point down the road later in the year where we do need to communicate to employers in advance that we're close to running out of funds or reaching that funding limit. And so that's just an FYI. The employer can still contribute as much as they'd like, but we do have limited resources for the pilot program. Employees will also receive their financial incentive funds on a platform via a virtual mobility card or physical card if requested on a case-by-case basis. We do have that option. And the funds can either be reinvested into using sustainable transportation methods, or they can be used at local retailers. So that's kind of the supporting the small business piece. And we're still working on identifying who those local retailers will be in Caged and Boulder Junction that qualify. But right now we're really thinking any small local business. So there will be plenty of options there. And then lastly, another important component is that participating employers can apply for the state tax credit from this program, which is the alternative transportation tax credit, where employers can receive a 50% credit on any funds they use to invest in alternative modes of transportation, in which this program would certainly qualify. So that's kind of the big incentive for employers there, is getting that 50% tax credit. implementation timeline. So we are currently working with Commutify on product development and configuration, in which we plan to begin product testing and conducting outreach. Actually, probably in February to employers at least. We're already finalizing some of the marketing materials, so conducting outreach probably before March. But the goal is to launch the platform and incentives program officially on April 1st. So on April 1, employees can start logging trips and earning funds for those sustainable commutes. And then next steps, so the incentives program will run until the end of the year, so employees can use funds until the end of December, or sorry, can earn funds until the end of December, but they do have until the end of January 2025 to spend their incentive money that they earn. And then thereafter, we'll evaluate the program, identify opportunities, challenges, opportunities to maybe improve it, and then the goal is to continue it in the coming years, if successful, and maybe even expand to other areas of the city. But happy to field any questions from commissioners. Still very much in the product development phase, but any feedback or comments is greatly appreciated.
Regan, do you expect the taxpayer funds to cannibalize any of the funding that employers already give to their employees to take alternate transportation? I think there used to be, there may still be some employers downtown that used to pay employees to take the bus instead of take up a parking spot. So they kind of paid them the equivalent of a parking spot every month, like $80 a month or something like that.
Got it. So, I mean, we see this program as kind of being I guess, an added benefit to that. Is that your question, Commissioner?
I'm wondering if they would use this to subsidize their existing programs rather than, like, they may already be paying certain employees for this behavior, and they see this more as a way to subsidize their funding versus an added.
Yeah, I'm not
program.
completely sure, but it's a good question that'll certainly raise Commutify.
I can speak to that some. I mean, we know a number of downtown employers have already been utilizing Commutify to distribute their transportation benefits to employees. And the platform is largely customizable to individual businesses. And so, as Regan said, we see this tool as additive, where it's certainly possible that now that we are putting some money in, that employers might realize modest savings if they're spending a lot of money on a specific tool right now that we're targeting with our incentives. But I would say through the partnership, first of all, I think it would be modest. And if that means that they have more capacity to support a broader portfolio of incentives for their employees, then it could be a win-win. But certainly something that we'll want to keep track of and understand as we're working with individual employers in our analysis.
Robin? Oh, you're on mute.
I have a question about security of user data on these. So obviously they're doing data collection so that they can better understand people using using public transit. I'm just curious, how is that anonymized so that someone doesn't have to worry about their particular movements being tracked? I understand big tech companies have done this. Just curious, I'm sure this is something that's been taken into account, but how are they doing that?
I am not entirely sure, but that's something I'll want to escalate to Commutify.
Sure.
I just don't want to make any assumptions, but
Just
that's
curious.
a good question.
So, and yeah, thanks for the question. I do know that this is something that not just Commutify is contemplating, but in order for us to contract with Commutify, our IT department needs to be really comfortable with the approach as well. And privacy and anonymization of data is important piece of that. Happy to pass the question on to Communify and get that back, but I know that we certainly we have the same questions and considerations.
And I'm just curious, have any of the offshoot portions of CU looked into doing this as well? Like I know Target, we're looking at small businesses, and obviously taxes is not an issue for the university, but we have a number of locations on the Hill and so forth that might be directly impacted by that.
So I'm not aware of any efforts for them. I don't know if you are, Chris.
I am not, and that's why we're excited about this pilot, because if it does prove to be really successful and easily duplicated, then it would be our hope that maybe more folks would adopt this approach to incentivizing travel behavior change for employees and others.
Cool, thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other questions?
All right. Thanks, Regan.
Thank you.
Last but certainly not least, if we can move the camera so you can see her, we have Emmy Smith here. I don't know that you all have met her before. She is our new communications program manager. I don't know if I got that title exactly right.
Yeah.
Good.
Perfect.
So we used to work with Jen Bray from the Communications and Engagement department, and Jen has retired, and now we are very lucky to be supported by Emmy. Emmy, before she was at the city, was with the Downtown Boulder Partnership, where we worked with her at that time in her role there. And then she came over to the city, was supporting the library for a number of months in their transition into a new district. And now she's been assigned to Community Vitality, and we hope that that is a permanent condition forever and ever and ever. But she's here to talk to you about commissioner recruitment efforts. Well, to introduce herself and talk about commissioner recruitment efforts. So over to Emmy.
Yeah, hi everyone. It's nice to meet you all virtually. And in addition to all the really great things Chris just said about me, I've also had the privilege to live in Boulder Junction for about 2.5 years now. So I'm really familiar with the area, and it's been awesome to see the signs come up and see the district really come alive over the last few years as a resident. But I'm happy to share out some information about how the city has been recruiting commissioners. And there's a couple different levels. So on a citywide level, in terms of how we've been recruiting for all the various boards, commissions across all the different departments, there was a huge press release that was distributed in the middle of December. Information has been shared out across all city social media channels, on the Nextdoor platform. There are flyers that have been created and distributed throughout the city. And then there's been highlights in various newsletters. So in the citywide Boulder newsletter and in the volunteer newsletter, a lot of information has gone out about all the various board and commission recruitment efforts. And then specific to Community Vitality, one of the commissioners from the Downtown Management Commission spoke on Inside Boulder News about what it's like to serve on a CV specific commission. And so that was awesome to get his perspective and share out what it's like to be a volunteer within the Community Vitality Department. We've also shared a lot of information about CV openings on Arts and Culture channels. So on Arts and Culture social media and in 3 or 4 different Arts and Culture newsletters now. Information about all commissions, including Boulder Junction, have gone out there. And then we've also shared it with a lot of community partners. So Downtown Boulder Partnership and the Hill have also been sharing information about openings, including Boulder Junction. So happy to answer any questions about what's been done so far. That application is about to close. It's open through Monday, January 29th. And so we're nearing the end of that application period. But happy to take thoughts and suggestions for potentially what we could do in the future, especially with Boulder Junction. I know that we have a lot of specific requirements for commissioners here. And so whatever we can help do to get the word out.
Any questions for Emmy? Robin?
May I just ask, I know that I know that the applications have not closed yet. What kind of engagement and interest have we gotten so far?
Yeah, so unfortunately, we're not able to see how many people have applied to specific commissions yet. That all goes through the city manager clerk's office. So we aren't able to see what engagement has been like as of right now. So we'll know a lot more once the application period officially closes. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Emmy. Welcome.
Thank you. Welcome.
And that concludes matters from staff. I do want to point out there is possibly a member of the public who's been listening in. I know we're past the public participation. But if the chair wanted to go back to public participation, we could ask for anybody who wants to participate to raise their hand.
Happy to do that. Good idea, Chris.
All right, I'm seeing one member of the public. If you are interested in speaking at the commission, you are welcome to raise your hand now. If not, we will move on with the agenda. I'm not seeing a raised hand, so we can move on to matters from commissioners.
Go ahead, Sue.
So I happen to see Pete from Car Share, and he was asking about getting a second car in Boulder Junction. Apparently that's one of their better utilized cars in Boulder. They seem to do a lot better in Denver, but anyway, I don't know if he's talked to you, if that's, guess just asking about that and seeing if there's any update or if there's anything he should do, or you can get in touch with him.
So I can chime in. Thanks, Commissioner. For Christine, but I have been in touch with Car Share. He connected with Samantha Bromberg and myself, and we connected him to Margot with our parking services front desk, who's gonna try to make some movement on that. Christine, do you have any other additional updates?
Yeah, it turns out there was some turnover with SP Plus, which is the company that manages the garage over there. So we had to figure out who the new contact is. We just got that this morning. So hopefully progress soon, but we're also excited about getting them up and running if possible.
Thank you. That's it.
Go
All
for it,
right,
Rebecca.
yeah, I have two items. The first of which is City Council's retreat is coming up in March. Do we have any more guidance on letters?
So the retreat has been rescheduled for April. There was a conflict with the mayor's schedule. We have not received any request or guidance, which if we do, we will certainly let you all know. There is a new retreat committee that they're the ones these are the council members that work together to plan out the retreat process. So they'll be the ones here to determine in the next number of weeks of what they would like specifically from commissions, if anything. As soon as we hear, we will let you know.
Can we add a discussion item to the next meeting just on what we want to include in the letter?
Sure.
Thank you. Any other comments from commissioners on that item? And then I'll move to my next one. All right. The second one is I'm actually out of the country in March, and I was wondering if we could see about having the meeting the week before March 13th, and if that would work for other commissioners, and if we could public notice that, if that is acceptable.
March 13th.
I have a standing 4 o'clock at our Boulder meeting. Sorry, Rebecca.
No, I mean, I'm suggesting that as a date, but I could do it a different day that week, or.
So how about if the commissions would like staff to seek out another time and everybody agrees that you would like to do that, or we have a will of a majority to do that, we're glad to do that.
I
That
would
sounds
vote
good.
for that.
So we will work to find a workable time for the March meeting that works for everybody.
Okay, and then related, it looks like we never did get a quorum for TDM tonight, so do we need a special meeting to vote on the property?
We're gonna conference with the city attorney's office to see if we can wait till a regular meeting, but yes, we very likely will need to at least schedule a 5-minute special meeting to get that passed.
All right, thank you, sir. Ryan, those are all of my matters from this commissioner.
Thanks, Rebecca. I didn't have anything. Robin shaking her head. Kevin, anything from you this evening?
No, thank you.
Okay. I think, Chris, unless there's anything else from you or staff, then we can adjourn.
We are all good. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, everybody.
Okay.
Thank
Thanks
you.
all. Take care.
Have a good night.
Good night.